Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, Cameroon brings in a curfew and another internet blackout after a dozen people are reportedly killed during a secessionist protest in the Anglophone region of the country. Also in Kenya, opposition protesters call for sackings at the Electoral Commission ahead of the rerun of the presidential election later this month. They accuse police of being heavy-handed in their response to opposition rallies. And an Oromo religious festival turns into a rare event of open defiance in Ethiopia. 1 year after a stampede started by police killed dozens at the Ireecha event, hundreds climb on stage to condemn the government, but this time officers stay away. First, rights groups Amnesty International claims that at least 17 people were killed in clashes in Cameroon's Anglophone region. Soldiers shot dead at least 8 people on Sunday as thousands of English-speaking separatists protested on October the 1st, the anniversary of their independence from Britain. A 48-hour curfew and internet blackout since been brought in. Many Anglophone Cameroonians say that they're frustrated with feeling like second-class citizens amongst the French-speaking majority. Our correspondents report.
Rose Findy is still shaken by this weekend's unrest. She lives in the city of Mutengeni and witnessed the violent clashes that erupted during recent Anglophone protests. On the 1st of October, she says, her home was targeted by police.
I was on my bed and I heard loud noises as they forced open and broke several doors. I was sleeping and I suddenly saw them enter the room. They asked to get out. I told them I could not go out because I'm sick. Then one of them grabbed me by the arm and threw me on the ground. That's when my daughter started to cry and shout, "You want to kill my mother?"
Her daughter Sally also witnessed the raid. The family says it doesn't know why their home was targeted.
I screamed. I told them I didn't have a mother or a father. The policemen want to kill us. They were sent to keep us safe, but they beat us up. They dragged my poor mother outside.
On October 1st, English-speaking separatists symbolically declared their independence. Cameroonian authorities mobilized several hundred security forces, dispersed crowds and forced residents to stay indoors.
They destroyed the windows and threw tear gas into these houses.
The measures did not prevent demonstrations or destruction. Even residents who stayed away from separatist rallies are worried about their safety.
The governor ordered us to stay home. We stayed indoors, but they came and started firing tear gas grenades into the houses anyway. What do they want? Do they want us to live in the forest? If we don't respect their orders, they will come to stop us. If we do respect them, they will do the same thing. We have no idea what they want.
The uncertainty and instability have affected much of the English-speaking areas to Cameroon's west. On Monday evening, the city of Buea looked like a ghost town in the wake of recent tensions in which over a dozen people have been killed over the weekend.
One person died in Kenya on Monday in connection to protests against the Electoral Commission. He reportedly died as he was running away from tear gas canisters being thrown by police at crowds in the western county of Siaya. Tensions are mounting as the country gears up for the October 26th rerun of presidential elections. Supporters of opposition candidate Raila Odinga want the CEO of the Electoral Commission, Ezra Chiloba, sacked as they blame him and other top members of the board for the annulment of the original August vote. Some demonstrators accuse police of having been too heavy-handed in tackling opposition rallies.
When we are just doing our peaceful demonstration, we are doing harm. Why?
We want Uhuru Kenyatta to respect the wish and the will of Kenyans.
Exactly. Yeah.
Justice Maraga gave a verdict
Exactly.
that we go for a fresh elections. And he said that IBC had a systematic illegality and irregularity within the system.
Yes.
We want fresh elections with the proper instruments of IEBC. If they fail to bring us a new IBC, then we are saying we are not going for an election. Period.
Today we are being clobbered by tear gas and we don't know what we've done. There is no mistake we've committed. You can see police running battles with us.
Well, President Uhuru Kenyatta, whose initial victory was annulled when the Supreme Court ordered a rerun, doesn't want the IEBC's makeup to change before the vote. Julia Steers tells us more.
They're certainly getting more heated, and certainly what we're seeing from supporters on both sides, from the rhetoric of Odinga and Kenyatta themselves, from the willingness of Odinga supporters to continue to go to the street, and from the increased use of force by police here in Nairobi and in the cities that you just saw today, is certainly reaffirming some fears that Kenyans have that the country could slide back into political violence that characterized elections here over 10 years ago. There's a real sense from the candidates that the stakes are much higher this time around. Odinga has been emboldened by the court decision. He continues to urge his supporters to take to the streets for as long as it takes for them to get a credible election. Kenyatta continues to attack the institutions of the state, mainly the Supreme Court. And there's a real sense from Kenyans at large that they just want to move past this election period. The economy here has been stalled for the better part of 4 months. But at the same time, while everybody just wants to move past these elections peacefully, there is also a seemingly increasing acceptance that there's a very high likelihood that this unrest could continue and could indeed mount into what many people feared and to what the country managed to largely avoid in August, and that is politically motivated violence and continued unrest.
Now, we saw a number of foreign diplomats meet with the electoral board in Kenya on Monday. Is there much international concern about the political tensions in the country?
There's huge international concern, and so far that's sort of been back-channeled. It's been expressed quietly to the candidates themselves. But today what we saw was a public expression of that concern. We heard from U.S. Ambassador Robert Godek speaking on behalf of the U.S., the U.K., and other diplomatic missions based here in Nairobi after their mission with the Electoral Board. And he really criticized both candidates. He went after Odinga for attacking the Electoral Board. He said that the Electoral Board that is in place is the only body in the country that can ensure a credible election this month, and so that both candidates have to just get behind that organization. And he also went after Kenyatta and Kenyatta's Jubilee Party for trying to force these measures through Parliament that would change the electoral laws here in Kenya just weeks before the election. He said that these things take time and should not be rushed through in the weeks before an election. So today certainly represented an increase in the diplomats based here going after both candidates. So far, like I said, they've really been back-channeling. The US and the UK have been heavily involved in funding and, of course, in speaking with both parties to try and urge peace and calm. But today they took those concerns publicly, and it really represents an increased fear that things could get out of hand here.
Julie stares there for us. Now, thousands of Ethiopian Oromo pilgrims marked the Ireecha festival on Sunday in Bishoftu. The event turned into a rare protest in commemoration of the dozens of pilgrims who died during the event last year. Many Oromos accuse authorities of seizing land and trying to marginalise them. 1 year on, the Oromo community demonstrated again, and this time police stayed away.
Traditionally, the Ireecha festival is meant to celebrate the beginning of harvest season. But since last year, the ceremonies have taken a tragic turn. Dozens of pilgrims were killed right here in a stampede after police fired tear gas at people protesting.
Last year, a lot of blood was spilled during this festival. That's why now we're not staging any propaganda show, but trying to commemorate our brothers who lost their lives. And we're trying to comfort mothers who are still weeping for their loved ones.
The Oromos, the largest ethnic group in Ethiopia, have been criticizing government policies for years. They say their community, language, and traditions have been sidelined. When authorities started seizing their lands outside the capital to develop Addis Ababa, they launched their protests. To defuse the crisis, authorities have arrested thousands over the past year.
Many Oromo political leaders are in jail, and so many of our scholars and university graduates are incarcerated in prison. So that's what the people are chanting right now.
This sign is the Oromos' way of showing resistance against the ruling party, which holds almost all parliament seats. In recent months, other ethnic groups have joined their protest.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks very much for joining us. Do so again. Take care.